Hey guys, welcome to the challenge review for the title screen Start New Game. So the objective here is that when I hit the space key, I need to spawn the player in, this title screen needs to go away, and then when the player dies, I need to re-enable the title screen, clear the score after I hit space again and spawn the player back in so that we can continuously play this game when we die. So how do we do that? And there's a few things you're going to actually run into that you're going to have to reset. For instance, you always want to make sure that when you start, the player has 3 lives. Okay? So how do we first begin? Well, let's first begin by giving our game a known state. Let's go ahead and create a game manager. And our game manager will hold a variable called game over. Okay? And when the game is over, we bring this title screen back up. We communicate with the UI manager. We bring this screen up. And the game manager will be responsible for checking if our game is in an active state or in the title screen. So here's how we would do this. Let's go ahead and create a new C# script. And let's go ahead and call this game manager. Now, because we named this script Game Manager, Unity 5 and up has created something unique where it can recognize certain words, and it turns it into a little gear icon. It's not going to affect anything, but just know that it's okay that if it did turn it into a gear icon, it's just something that Unity picked up on because of the naming convention that we're using. If we wanted to not have it as a gear icon, you can name your script game controller or game handler. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and keep it as game manager though. And let's go ahead and open that up. So what we want to do is we want to create a variable to determine the state of the game. I don't need void start and update, but what I do need is a bool type variable. So public bool, and we'll go ahead and say game over. And we'll say game over equals true. So when the game first starts, game over is true because there's no active movement, there's no playing. Now in here, what's the logic that we want to do? I need to check for if game over, right? So if game over is true, and then inside that we would check for if space key pressed, then what do I want to do? I need to spawn the player, game over is false, and we'll go from there. So let's just go ahead and get the player spawned. Game over is false. Oh, also hide the title screen. So here we have hide title screen. Okay, so to start, we're going to need our void update back. Void update is with a capital U. Syntax is important as this is a Unity specific method. Alright, so first thing first, if game over is true, we only want to run the code inside this update method if our game over variable is true. So if game over is true, meaning that you're on the title screen, let's go ahead and check for a key press. So here, if you input, and I have lost my IntelliSense here, if input.getKeyDown, keycode.space, give me one moment while I bring that back. Anytime you lose IntelliSense, it's always good to head back over to your game to let the script compile. Make sure there's no syntax errors. Looks like everything is okay. There's just some indentation. Let's go and open that back up. So if I hit the space key, I want to spawn the player, which means our game manager needs to know about the player. So here, we'll create a public game object. Okay, public game object. And we'll go ahead and call this player. Okay, there is something funny going on here with my IDE. Give me just a second here. Let's take a look at this. So our game manager, I'm going to go ahead and create a new empty game object for it. So let's go ahead and right click, create empty. We'll go ahead and rename this to game manager. And let's add my game manager script to it. So here's our player. We want to drag our player into there. Now it's important that we don't drag them from the hierarchy. We need to first turn it into a prefab. So let's drop our prefabs folder down, put the player inside there. I can now remove the player from the scene view or from the hierarchy. And I'm going to click on my game manager and I'm going to add the player prefab. Okay, let's save our scene and let's head back in here. So if input.getKeyDown keycode.space, then what do we want to do? We want to instantiate that player. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and get the IntelliSense back. The way you do that is I'm just going to go ahead and close Visual Studios. And I'm going to go ahead and double click on my game manager. And that should recompile and reopen the project. And we should have my IntelliSense back. Go ahead and let this load. And hit yes. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and say instantiate, and there we go. We want to instantiate the player. And the position I want to instantiate him is going to be a new vector 3. And I want him to spawn at 0, 0, 0. I could also say vector3 dot 0, which is the equivalent to 0, 0, 0. And I don't care for the rotation, so we'll go ahead and say quaternion dot identity. Okay, and let me spell that correctly. Okay, so here we go. So if game over is true, if we hit the space key, we're going to instantiate the player. This is important. You want to make sure that game over is no longer true. So now game over is false. And then here we need to say hide title screen. So how do we hide the title screen? We shouldn't have access to it. It's part of the UI manager's responsibility. So here in the UI manager, let's go ahead and create a method here that says public void show title screen as well as hide title screen. Alrighty, hide title screen. So we'll head back into our game manager and let's go ahead and call our hide title screen. In order to do that, I need to get a reference or a handle onto the UI manager. So here we're going to say private UI manager underscore UI manager. Next I would like to, we need void start again, capital S for start. And we need to find the UI manager and then get the component. So here we're going to go ahead and say our UI manager equals GameObject.find. And the object we're looking for is our canvas. Canvas. And then we want to grab the UI manager component. Okay. So now that we have access to it, we can go ahead and hide the title screen. So here we say underscore UI manager dot hide title screen and initialize the method. Save this. Let's head back over to Unity. And we should be good to go. Now, in order for this to actually work, and I do have a syntax error here, UI manager.hide title screen, it's upset about that. The error says, type UI manager does not contain a definition for hide title screen. I believe I did not save my UI manager script, which I did not. Also, we have no functionality within these methods, so as soon as I call them, nothing is going to happen. So I need actually a reference to our title screen. So here, public game object, and we'll go ahead and say title screen. And once we get that reference, I'm going to assign it from the inspector. I'm going to go ahead and say here, show title screen. Title screen dot set active is true. Hide title screen. We're going to say title screen dot set active false. We can go ahead and save that. Click on your canvas. And you'll see here we're looking for a title screen. Go ahead and drag your title into there. Save your scene. And let's go ahead and test this out. So looking at the game manager here, we have our logo here. And if we look at the game manager, you can see here that game over is true. And if I hit space, there we go. And now we can play. So right now I've gone ahead and died. So what I want to do now is I want to bring back the title screen. So let's go ahead and work on that. So to do that, we're going to head over to our player. And when I die, which is here, where we destroy the game object, we need to say, bring back the title screen. All right, so to do that, once again, we need a game manager reference. So here, we're going to say private game manager underscore game manager. And let's go ahead and get that reference. Game manager equals game object dot find the canvas dot get component the game manager. Okay, now that we have a handle onto our game manager, and I'm sorry, not the canvas, it's actually game manager. That's the empty object we created. On that empty object is the component game manager. Okay, heading back over to our damage method, right here, we're gonna say game manager dot, oh, and I'm so sorry guys. We want the UI manager. However, we do want to say game over is true. So here we're gonna say game manager dot game over equals true. And then also we want to say UI manager dot show title screen. So we still needed the game manager, but it was just to set the bool to true so that we could hit space again. So let's go ahead and test this out. And we'll see if we run into any problems. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit space. Okay, so we're in. And let's go ahead and get hit. 1, 2, 3. Okay, our game is reset. Our score was 10. If I hit the space key, I spawn back in. Everything looks proper. I had 3 lives, which is a great sign. The reason for that is because we're recreating the player, and by default, his start method will get called, and his lives are set to 3, or whatever it is by default. Now, you will notice, though, that our score did not reset. So when we hit enter, we want to tell the UI to update the score to be 0 again. So here's how we do that. We're going to hop into here. We're going to go into the UI manager. And in order to do that, we need to send a message to the update score. Because right now, by default, we're just saying score plus equals 10, and it's just adding 10 to the current score. What we would like to do is we actually need to tell the score to update. So an easy way to do this is actually when we hide the title screen, let's just go ahead and reset the score. So we say score text.text equals score. And that's it. We've erased the score now. So let's go ahead and test that. And obviously, what we're going to also want to do is you want to actually stop all the behavior that's happening, because you only want the behavior to start as soon as you press the space key. Or maybe you like having this and it's getting more difficult, so you're more than welcome to do what you like. But I'm going to go ahead and make it so that there's no action on the screen until we hit the space key. So I hit space. Okay, we'll go ahead and let's get a point. Okay, we have 10 points and we have no lives. So our title showed back up. Let's go ahead and hit space again. And there you go, our score is reset, and now it's like a brand new game. There we go. So, as a challenge, guys, I want you to figure out how can we stop this behavior. And we'll go ahead and cover that in the next video. I'll see you guys then.